Stay tuned for a special presentation of the Roy and Jimmy Thing.
On today's episode of the Roy and Jimmy Thing, we have Tom Petty superfan Sean Bresnan sitting in with us. Not only is he a superfan, he was the creator of the very first Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers internet fan page. Currently, he's the administrator for TomPettyRocks.com and also the Facebook group Tom Petty Rocks. So it's our pleasure to present to you an interview with Mr. Sean Bresnan right here on the Roy and Jimmy Thing.
I hope this is a guy named Jimmy.
This is me. Hey, Sean, how you doing, buddy?
Man, I never answer unknown calls.
That's all it says is unknown, right?
Yep. I'm so glad we met how we did.
Well, yeah, you know that the connection we had with Rich Scheidner, and then it turning out to you being the Petty fan, which I assumed, and then it turned out to be more than. So you started. Give me some background on this. How'd your Petty experience or obsession start?
Well, I don't want to call it an obsession so much as it was just a love. And the only thing I can relate it to is like people, you know, I see those old video shots when Lennon was shot and how emotional some of those people were.
Right.
And when Lennon was shot, I was, 1980. So, 14 years old, and I didn't really discover Lennon until much later, you know? I mean, I knew who he was,
sure,
but I didn't get my appreciation for him till much later. But growing up, I grew up on Long Island, and Huntington, Long Island, and my mom was cool as shit. She used to go to the folk fest on the beaches of Long Island. Jones Beach used to have a folk festival every year. And she'd go see Bob Dylan. She went to high school with Simon and Garfunkel.
Wow.
My aunt actually dated Garfunkel.
Damn.
And they went to the same high school, Queens High School, and I did a post on one of my sites a while back. When the guys in the Ramones died, they named the street name after the Ramones, and it was the same high school my mom went to with Simon and Garfunkel. So, I mean, she turned me on to great music early on, and I remember listening to Bob Dylan's Nashville Skyline and Mamas and the Papas, the album with Monday on it, and she had a great musical taste, and she turned me on to the whole folk scene and pretty much the singer-songwriter thing. And I knew I liked that early on.
You were getting into the words and the meanings at that point.
Yeah, and it was just like, man, he's really saying something, you know. And it was because at that age, what was going on? Disco was freaking going on,
right?
And you know, I had all these friends listening to Saturday Night Fever, and I was like, yeah, I don't like that. I don't dance. So I was trying to break away from, and my dad was really into Neil Diamond. And granted, I love Neil Diamond, and I appreciate him, and he's a great songwriter himself. Wrote all those Monkees tunes. Incredible performer. But, man, after you hear it, when it's embedded into your brain at an early age, you kind of want to hear something else.
Exactly. So, I was 15 when John Lennon got killed. And the same thing, you're surrounded by that.
I turned 51. How old are you, Jimmy?
Right now I'm 52, so I was 15 when that happened.
Okay.
And, you see the reaction and the emotional, and you just don't get it, especially at that age. Yeah. And then as time goes on, when someone else passes away, another pop star, music star, rock star, you just don't get it.
Right. But as we grew up, and we, obtained that love for their music and what they actually did for the music industry, it was amazing to me. I totally got why they were so emotional, and with Tom happening recently, it was like you lost a family member.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a shock. I
didn't see it coming, and I never, I posted yesterday saying that I've never even thought of the Heartbreakers not being there carrying the rock and roll torch.
Right.
I mean, they were pop music for 4 decades.
That's how long. Yeah, and you posted last week. You lost your John Lennon. And I think that was a great analogy because as me and you were finding out with each other I'm a huge Tom Petty fan, and it hit me late as far as appreciating pretty much everything him and the Heartbreakers did. I went to my very first concert was for the Wallflowers tour. I think it was Dogs Can Fly, Dogs at Wings. So it was April 1995, and I went because me and my girlfriend, there were tickets available that night, and we went, let's go. And it was no big deal. And when I heard them live, it was like, holy cow. I've been to concerts before.
They are so phenomenal live.
Yeah, you've been to concerts before, and everybody twists their own songs around, and you're like, oh, okay, I saw them play. But the way they sounded, and by the time I got to Refugee, it was like an out of body. It was like, wow, I have to have everything Tom Petty right now.
Well, that was my first Tom Petty experience growing up on Long Island. I always got along with people who were older than me, maybe because I thought they were smarter and cooler, but I don't know why, but this kid up the street was 17 and I was 13. And it was October 1979, and I bought my first electric guitar from Frank Crowley was his name. I still remember it to this day.
Yeah.
And he said, look, I got this electric guitar that you'd like. It was a Gibson Les Paul copy, a Hondo 2 Gibson Les Paul copy that I bought for $35 from Frank. And he said, come over Saturday. I want you to hear this new record I just bought, and I'll teach you some chords. So it was Damn the Torpedoes.
Wow.
And I went over to his house, and the first bar chord I ever learned was F sharp minor, the intro to Refugee. We put that needle down on the front of that album again and again and again. Listen, that's how it was done in 1979.
Yeah.
You didn't have digital recordings. You couldn't back shit up.
Dropping the needle right. Yeah, dropping the needle right there is your big clue. Yeah.
Right. You had to go, oh, okay, where was that bit? And place the needle right where it was. It was a hell of an experience, but man, good times. And right then and there, I knew that was rock and roll to me. That was, his words meant something to me. He spoke about women. And at that age, hell, Tom helped me through puberty.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. And the only Tom Petty album I had at that point was Damn the Torpedoes. And I bought that when it came out. I got it for, I believe, Don't Do Me Like That. That's what was on the radio. And then you start exploring, and this is back in the day when you bought an album for a song. And then everything else kind of came with, and you kind of discovered the song before it, the song after it. And then it's like, oh, that's a great one. This is a great one. But up until that point, when I saw them in concert, it was like, wow, it all kind of came together at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. They're just phenomenal live. So, yeah, back then, man, what the Heartbreakers did and what the music industry was doing then, I mean, they literally released singles like you're talking about Don't Do Me Like That. But I believe the first single was Refugee off of Damn the Torpedoes.
Right.
But the B-sides were always amazing.
Oh, yeah.
They were songs like Casadega that was released on, I think that was the B-side of Refugee.
Now, see, that's a great song I didn't even experience until I bought the playback set.
Exactly. I just, like we were talking the other night about that playback box set is phenomenal.
And
all the old Mudcrutch stuff, that was recorded. One thing, having worked with him and having worked with his management company, they recorded everything. One of Tom's routines was that he recorded every show. And when he got back, to the hotel or to the bus or whatever after the show, he was listening to his performance.
Wow.
And he was always wanting to make it better. And that's the way he did it. And I thought that was awesome.
That's mastering your craft right there.
Yeah.
He was so
concerned about the performance. And like every album, he released, he always wanted it to be better than the last one.
Right.
Which, he was so on top of shit. I don't know how to explain it. It's like he had his finger on the pulse of, what people want to hear or something.
Well, and that showed in the stage performance, honing the craft. Because when he would enhance a song, stretch it out, have a solo in between, and it wasn't over the top and it wasn't gratuitous. It went with. It was like
Mike Campbell is the most phenomenal guitarist I've ever. I mean, I play guitar, and I'd be embarrassed to pick up a guitar in front of Mike Campbell.
He's underrated. He's so underrated.
He plays the right notes for every song. And I've seen him perform Running Down a Dream more times than I can count, Jimmy.
Yeah.
And every time I see him, I'm just floored.
Yeah, and when he finished the song up at the end there, that the whole ending of that song is just all Mike Campbell on the guitar. And,
he did that off the cuff live in the studio.
I think I read where, he did that. That's right. Yeah, it's just like, record him. He's going. Here it is.
Right, and he, he's just a phenomenal guitarist, and he always knew what was right for Tom's songs. I mean, they were like the perfect match from the beginning.
Oh yeah,
and he always got what Tom wanted to do, and that's what he produced. I mean, those first two albums are probably two of my favorite. It amazes me that they're only 30 minutes long each, but. Yeah. There is some phenomenal work on there. I mean, you're going to get it. And, Wild One Forever is one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite Heartbreak tunes. And, it's just, there's some phenomenal work there. And then when You're Gonna Get It came out, I mean, You're Gonna Get It itself, the title tune is phenomenal. Listen to Her Heart.
Yeah, that's a great song. And like I said, all those B-sides and cuts you don't see or even ever heard of. Like Casadega, I never heard the song until it got played back.
Magnolia off of I Think You're Gonna Get It is phenomenal. I mean, it's got such a southern vibe from where he came from. And, his words were so right on. And I just related with them at an early age. And I never stopped loving them after that first, laying that needle down on the beginning of Damn the Torpedoes.
Well, what took you from that love to how'd you end up being with starting up or working with GoneGator.com? When did that come out?
Well, all right. We'll skip a couple of decades. We'll jump to 1999. I was working for a web development company, and I did web design. And was working on several different websites for this company. And by the way, if you have anybody who needs a website, give them my number.
Will do.
Sorry about that.
And that time, it was actually you were doing more coding. There was no really all these programs out there.
Well, I wouldn't call myself a coder. Whereas, I didn't do. The whole back end thing to it. I was more front end design and making everything look really good.
Gotcha.
And aesthetically correct and having people get to what they're looking for quicker. And I'm really good at search engine optimization and getting websites found.
Gotcha.
So in 1999, I started GoneGator.com as a hobby. I was working for this great startup company. We were, we were an early version of iTunes.
Okay.
We were getting deals with record labels, and people could come to our site. I actually named the company's site. It was called Amplified.com, and they could download selected songs from all these different catalogs that we had obtained. And we would burn them a CD with their selected songs and send it to them, or they could download the individual tracks.
Wow.
Long story short, Apple got into the business and put us out. So as a hobby, I started GoneGator.com, and it was great, man. I was able to experiment with things that I wanted to try on the company website, but this was mine, so I could see if it works on this website and then put it into production on other websites.
Gotcha. So little R&D on yours.
Right. It was a great tool. Well, it turns out, let me back up. I named it Gone Gator. I don't know if you know the story behind that, but the name Gone Gator comes from Tom Petty's first publishing company. It was Gone Gator Music.
That's
and
right.
I thought when he first, if you look back at his old publishing, the old music books and stuff, you'll see Gone Gator Music a lot on the earlier recordings. So I thought that would be a great name for a Tom Petty fan site. I mean, I was thinking you really had to be a fan to know that, And so I reserved GoneGator.com, and I built this website. And, I used some of my marketing experience with web design and stuff, and I got it recognized. I got it in the right places. I found, where other Tom Petty fans were, and I posted links there and started posting off the official website and stuff like that. I built this huge base of fans that would go to Gone Gator, and all of a sudden I'm getting 3,000 people, 4,000 people a week to my website. I'm going, what the hell?
Wow.
And I was just getting, pictures. I'm really good with search engines and finding information and things I need, like pictures and things like that. And I might have not gone around it the most legal way with the pictures, but I always came from the school where it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is for permission.
Yes.
So I was like, screw it, let's go for it. So I built this website, and I'll have to send you the link. I can't remember the name of it, but it's something like backintime.com.
Oh, right, yeah.
And if you go to GoneGator.com, you can see all the you can see how I changed the design of the website over the years and how it grew. And it's pretty cool. But, I mean, when I first started it in 1999, it was a very basic HTML website with static web pages. And, man, people found it and loved it.
And what were you putting on there?
I knew how to use a search engine. I could find information on Tom Petty every month, and I had something posted, This is before Facebook. This is before everybody thought they were a newscaster.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so what were you putting up there? Articles, pictures, just tour information?
Yeah, articles from Billboard magazine, articles from Rolling Stone, when it was not as easily found as it is today.
Oh, yeah, you can cut and paste these days, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you just hit share,
right?
And people think they're the guy who found the story. No,
no scoop here.
But so I did this, and here's a really cool thing, is that the wives of the band members found my website. Like, Mike Campbell's wife found it.
Yeah,
and started sending me pictures.
Oh, neat.
And Dana found it and started sending me pictures. And Dana and I would have these conversations. I had a yellow lab at the time. They had a yellow lab, and we would just talk dogs for forever.
You're gonna laugh. I have a yellow lab.
Oh man, they're great dogs.
They're awesome.
They're freaking great. And so I built this relationship, right? And then a girlfriend of Howie Epstein wrote me. And she started sending me all these pictures of Howie's house in Arizona with the teepees and all this. And I got to talk to Howie on the phone.
Oh,
and
wow.
Howie was one of the sweetest guys I've probably ever talked to. And he was so down to earth. And he was like, man, I love what you're doing. I can't believe you built this for us. Thank you. He says, I've got a bunch of Polaroids that I'm going to send you. And please scan them and put them on your site and tell people I sent them to you.
Wow.
I was like, hell yeah.
Exactly.
So he sent me about, I want to say there were a dozen, maybe 20 Polaroids. And, I had to send them back to him, so I had to be real careful with them.
Yeah.
So back in, I wish hindsight is 20/20, and I wish I had scanned them at a higher resolution back when I had them.
Right.
But I still have the smaller ones that I did scan, and they're like pictures of Benmont on a Harley Davidson in Howie's garage, a picture of Tom's roadie. Oh God, what's his name? I'm having a brain fart. Bugs holding a half a gallon of milk next to Tom, doing like a cheers with Tom with a coffee cup, and with Mike Campbell. Pictures on Tom's driveway with George Harrison and Jeff Lynne. Just awesome pictures.
Now, as a fan,
the only place people could see these pictures were on GoneGator.com. So next thing I know, that was 2001, and they were getting ready to go on tour that summer, and they had a date in Atlanta. I had USA Today call me.
wow.
I did an interview with them, and they posted a blurb on usatoday.com. I don't know if the link's still out there anymore, but it was pretty cool. And I also got an interview with the Atlanta Journal. And they bragged about having a Tom Petty fan site right here in Atlanta.
Damn.
And, it was pretty cool.
From like you said, your little humble beginnings with that to Howie and Dana and to the newspaper article, it's just you probably had no even wildest dreams it would blow up that big.
No, Jimmy, because I was just doing it as a fan. Not even, you know what? I built it because I was a fan.
Right.
But the intentions were much different. I was building it to test my skills in design. And it turned into something much different, and it was pretty cool.
That is awesome.
It got some great press. I mean, for a fan site to get that kind of press is unheard of.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there are so many copy websites out there. It's incredible.
Well, I remember popping over to GoneGator.com because once I got in after that concert, then you search everything. And like I said, we're talking the 90s, so the information isn't as accessible as it is now. But you're trying to get, the set list from this concert and the set list from my concert, and what am I missing as far as albums? And you're just into it. And I do remember popping into GoneGator.com.
Oh, cool! Very cool. It was a great project. It got me. I got closer to the band members and to management. I don't think I met Tony Dimitriadis first until Music Midtown in Atlanta in 2006, when he invited me backstage, and I had to actually watch the show from the side of the stage.
Oh, wow.
And, I was sitting with Dana, and, I had seen Dana the previous tour, I want to say for Last DJ, and I was down on the floor, And, I never asked them for tickets. I was never that kind, because I toured with bands that opened for Aerosmith and ZZ Top, and I know how annoying that is to be that guy.
Right. Yeah, we've all seen that guy.
Yeah. And so, I was paid for my ticket back then, but they fixed that later. So I was down on the floor, and I saw Dana walking down the aisle, and I went out, and I said, Dana, and she turned around, and I said, Sean Bresnan, and she ran up and hugged me, and it was just cool as shit,
Oh, that's awesome.
And every time, let me back up, I missed a spot. In 1999, I flew out to see them at the Fillmore in San Francisco. And I paid, Jimmy, this is the most I've ever paid for a concert ticket. I paid $400 for one concert ticket to see them at the Fillmore. And I had heard through fans in San Francisco, through Gone Gator, and it had only been up a couple of months, that they usually stay at the Miyago in Chinatown, which... where they stayed in 97, I think, when they first did the Fillmore run, the 20 shows. And then when Echo came out, they did 7 shows at the Fillmore. And I said, I've got to see this. So, man, I flew out there. I bought this ticket. I booked a hotel room in the same hotel they're staying at. And I was outside having a cigarette, and Benmont Tench walks by. And I stuck my hand out. I said, Mr. Tench, hey, my name's Sean Bresnan. I just flew out here from Atlanta to see you guys tonight. Thank you so much. I built this site called GoneGator.com. I don't know if you've heard about it. Please check it out. And he just stood back and looked at me and said, thank you, man. It was so cool. And I got to, that was a time when I had first been friends with Mike Campbell's guitar tech, Chinner, and right next to this hotel was this mall in Chinatown with all these great restaurants. So I walked in there for lunch. He was sitting there, but Mike Campbell and Chinner and Steve Ferroni and crap. Sorry.
It's all good.
Yeah. I can't remember the. Anyways, so I sat down and I introduced myself, and all of a sudden I'm having sushi with Mike Campbell. And
That's awesome.
This is so fucking cool.
It's so great when you can when you meet some of your idols, and it's just like regular people. You can just hang and just have a great time.
But my point with that story, that was where it started, was my introduction, where the band started to get to know me. And every show I went to after that, they would wave to me. It's like, hey, man. And when Tony brought me backstage, he was amazed that I knew everybody. They would walk by and go, hey, Sean.
Oh, man.
You met them? I was like, yeah.
That is awesome.
It was pretty cool. So, after that, what was the next step I did? I did Gone Gator Radio. I want to say that started right around 2006. And me and John Scott contacted me, and he asked me if I know anything about streaming audio.
With
my job with Amplified.com, I was like, God, that's all I've been doing for the last 7 years.
Let's give our listeners a little background on John.
Well, John is the guy who made Tom Petty famous. Long story short, he was if I'm not mistaken, he was the promotions guy for ABC Records back in the 70s, like 76, right when the record came out, 76, 77. Mm-hmm. And John was looking for an album to break. And as John told it to me, he was going through a pile of records one day and came across the Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers first record cover. And he said, let me listen to this. This looks cool. So he listened to it and loved it. He loved Breakdown, everything about it. He was like, this is a real rock and roll album. And he physically went out and traveled to every radio station he had contacts with in the United States. And he broke that record. If it wasn't for John Scott going out to Boston, I don't know that Tom Petty and the Harp people would know that name.
Yeah, because it wasn't they weren't out of the gate rock and roll stars with that album. I mean, even though
what really broke Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers to the public was the movie FM.
Oh, I love that movie.
That came out in 1978, and Breakdown was in that soundtrack.
That's right.
Tom Petty actually cameo in that movie.
That's right. I remember that. In fact, that movie's loosely based on the rock station out here that was KMET at the time.
I have a feeling WKRP from Cincinnati was based on that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, but that's a great movie. And, to have Breakdown on your first album, it's incredible.
No kidding. How awesome. I mean, that is just incredible. Such a great song. And, man, they were so rock and roll. They got tossed into that whole new wave thing, and I just don't think people knew where the hell to put them.
Right.
And, unless you listen to that, I mean, if you listen to the Talking Heads back then, yeah, that's a little funky. That's a little,
right.
Even Elvis Costello was maybe a little more rock and roll back then even.
Sure.
But he got thrown into that category too. And, but man, the Heartbreakers just rocks.
Yeah. So John's out there pitching this thing because he just loved it.
Yeah. And he took it to heart and went to all these different cities and got just kept getting them ads, man, on the playlist. Just every week he was bringing more and more ads to the playlist. And once FM came out, things skyrocketed. And then they got Jimmy Iovine involved, and when he produced Damn the Torpedoes, that was a shit right then and there. I mean, the things they did on that record, just working on Stan's drum sound. I had a tough time last Monday, man, when I heard the news, and I'm still pissed off about how media did with it.
Yeah.
Because that information should not have been released until it was official. Right. And people didn't know. And, man, I tell you what, I was just I couldn't get any work done that day. I was just watching news. It stopped me, too. I was out doing stuff, and I was getting over the whole Las Vegas thing and trying to grasp that. And then I heard about Tom, and I'm like, oh, what? No. And then... Right.
Then people know how much of a fan I am, so I'm getting messages, and then my mom called. And
man, I heard my aunts and uncles called me.
And I really appreciated them doing that. And then at the same time, I felt kind of weird going, okay, listen, I appreciate it, but you know how much this means to me.
Right. And I was just like, thanks, but, I'm not a stalker.
Yeah. Let's not get that out there. Oh yeah. When I got married, you pick out your songs, and for our introduction coming in, I picked "Running Down a Dream," and the DJ says, "No, man, really?" And I said, "Just watch what happens," And the whole crowd, old and young, got into it because you know how the song goes; it just builds up. The lyrics are perfect, and everyone's dancing by the end of this thing.
Yeah. When I was in going to Georgia State, I majored in music business, and I had a promotions class, and I had to sell a radio promotions director a new song. So Full Moon Fever had just come out, and I brought my acoustic guitar into the classroom, and I did Facing a Crowd.
Oh, good song.
And the class loved it, that I did such a great rendition of it and stuff like that. And I was listing off the bullet points of the song. It's been added here, here, and here. The song is rising on this chart on Billboard this week, this chart on Radio and Records.
Yeah.
Back when all these magazines were the shit. and I loved that industry back then. I mean, it's sad what's happened to it.
Sure.
But, man, it was a blast, and I had my shit down. I was just like, bam, bam, bam. This is a song. You need to play this. And, you know, so I got the ad as the for the class credit. So it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Well, you know, when Full Moon Fever came out, that kind of brought Tom Petty back around again, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, my favorite part about that album and the cassette is that midpoint where he says, this is where you turn it over. This is where you turn the album over. You know,
that's
old
great.
school, and I love that. But Full Moon Fever came out, and it was a total different sound for him, but it was still his signature sound at that time.
Right.
And it's one of those albums again.
That sound, the sound of those Rickenbackers on that guitar on that album. Oh my God! I mean, Jeff Lynne did a phenomenal job producing that record. And what's the Birds cover they do on that? Feel a whole lot better.
Yeah, and him and Roger McGuinn sound like absolutely identical there. No, it's such a great album.
Funny story. Another tangent. At the time, I was playing clubs around Marietta, Georgia, playing guitar and singing, and I used to play for this. I used to open for this Elvis impersonator in a place called Churchill's Pub in Marietta. And one week, Damn the Torpedo, Full Moon Fever came out. They were playing, you know, I Won't Back Down on the radio. The first thing I learned off the record is Free Fallin'.
Right.
And so nobody had really heard it yet because the radio's not playing it yet. And I decided to play it. And, you know, I did the verse great, and I was drinking a lot of tequila that night. And I got to the chorus, and I cracked like Peter Brady going through puberty.
I went out.
So I had a bunch of friends there, so we turned it into a comedy bit.
You might as well at that point.
When I got to the chorus, I just pointed to my friends, and they go, "Free!"
You know, it is how much we love that song. But you know, I loved hearing it in concert, but I hate it when you put it on the encore because at that point your throat's already trash, and
right,
you just have to lean back. You got all your beers in you, and you just free. You're just screaming it at that point, just freaking wailing it. I did a drunken karaoke night a couple of years ago, and everyone was up there doing the usual stuff. And so I got the book, I looked at it, and I said, this is the one I'm going to do. And I think I brought the house down a little bit, if I must say, I did Breakdown.
Yeah.
And it's just, I had like a thumb in my pocket. I was just doing the cool rendition of it, just standing there, and it came out pretty good.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's my little ode to it right there.
All right. Well, I did a lot of cover. I mean, in my post yesterday, you know, I talked about how, you know, Tom helped me through a lot of breakups growing up, and singing songs like "Here Comes My Girl" and "You're Gonna Get It," "Hurt" from "You're Gonna Get It" as well. "You Got Lucky." I mean, they're not nice songs, but man, they helped you through a breakup.
Yeah. Well, you know,
it was just like, man, it brought your strength back. And I used to do a cover of "A Woman in Love" that, I don't mean to sound cocky, but I did a good damn version.
I'm sure you did.
Guitar. And because, see, I related so well to Tom's lyrics, I could make the song my own, you know?
Right.
And at that time where I used to be able to actually sing, it sounded good. And I had this experience at this one bar doing that song, and there was just, you know, you could hear people talking, and then all of a sudden it was like all eyes were on you, and nobody was talking. And it was like, oh shit, don't fuck up.
Don't make me aware. Don't make me aware.
Right. So I'm doing this song, and you know, I thought I did a good job. And after, you know, I did my set, I had this older couple, older than me at the time. I guess I was maybe in my 20s at the time, and they were in their 30s. And this guy comes up to me and goes, "Man, you made that song your own."
Wow.
And I just thought that was the biggest compliment ever.
That's a great compliment.
And I was like, it's not my words and all, but God, I was feeling them.
Exactly. Well, once I became a super fan, if you will, the appreciation, like we said, for the songs and that beginning of "Here Comes My Girl," his little riff, bringing the song in, it's just like, at that point, those are goosebump songs at that point. You're just like, wow.
Right.
You're just like...
That sound is just so phenomenal.
I heard the song before, but now I get the song.
Right.
And, and I really got to a point in my life where people just said, "Dude, if you say Tom Petty one more time," I'm like, okay, I have headphones. I'm okay. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And in my obsession, like I said, I believe it was the Echo Tour. Followed them all through California. Must have saw him 6-7 times that summer alone. One of the best places we saw him was at the Santa Barbara Bowl. It's a little, the university up there, but it's this little bowl. And, oh, my God, it's intimate, and the sound was just awesome. And I seen him at the Hollywood Bowl, Irvine Meadows. But that little Santa Barbara Bowl was just probably so awesome.
Yeah. I've seen them all over the country. I went to when Pearl Jam was opening for him in 2006, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I went flew out to Denver, and the management company hooked me up tickets. And Jimmy, I didn't know. I didn't care what they gave me,
Yeah.
And the first night, I'm with this date who paid for my plane ticket.
That's a good date. That's a good date.
They gave us 21st row. I was like, well, this is cool. We can see everything. This is great. Had a great time first night, right?
Yeah.
Second night, we show up to Will Call, 7th row.
Jeez.
I'm like, are you kidding me?
Wow.
I was embarrassed to be that close because Mike and Benmont are waving at me.
There he is. Hey, Sean. Well, I'm not ashamed to say I spent probably too much more money the more we got to be fans, and, for 5th row and 10th row. And it's just like,
man, I've seen them all over the place, and it's been a great show every time.
Every time.
I don't know how many times I've seen them, Jimmy. I mean, I lost count a long time ago. And, but everyone's been phenomenal. But I'll tell you, the Fillmore is a great memory. That venue just reeks of history.
Oh, yeah.
And, all right, I'll tell you this story. I threw up at the Fillmore.
Okay, tell. Yes.
It's a funny story. So I met this girl. Her name was Elizabeth, a beautiful Asian girl from San Francisco. And we made friends over gungator.com. And she was like, meet me and my friend for dinner, and we'll have some drinks before the show. And I met them, and I was a shy guy, man, and I didn't know what to expect, what was going on. And we had a great dinner, but I was pounding the Bacardi and Cokes.
Oh, boy. Bully.
So we get to the Fillmore, and I was hammered. And it's just a bit embarrassing to look back on. But once I got sick in the Fillmore bathroom, I was ready to go, ready to see Tom Petty.
Cleanse it out. I remember listening to when he's at the Fillmore.
You can erase that part of the interview.
Are you kidding me? That's going on loop. I remember listening to the Fillmore shows, KLOS out here in L.A. Simulcasted. And then I picked up on eBay.
What's the DJ from KLO? Jim?
Jim Ladd.
Yeah. Oh man,
he's the last DJ.
I love his work with Roger Waters on Chaos.
Radio Chaos. Yeah. In fact, that's also about KMBT out here too. He based the book on that. So they simulcasted, but back then I went to eBay, and back then you could actually buy something and find something on eBay. I have the 2 CD set from Westwood One of one of the concerts. I believe it's from Minneapolis on that tour.
Yes.
Yeah, I got the whole Westwood One CD pieces
nice.
on that. Yeah.
You know what? I think I have that too. Oh, so that back to a tangent I went off on earlier. Back in 2006, we started talking about John Scott.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And then what John wanted, he asked me about streaming media and if I knew how to do it. So basically, he wanted me to create this radio station from my desk, which I did. I bought a soundboard and a great microphone, and hooked us up with a streaming radio station service.
Mm-hmm.
And I started doing this Gone Gator radio thing. And I started bragging about it on all the message boards, on all the contact. I built this mailing list for GoneGator.com that had 10,000 people on it.
Wow.
And I sent it out to them. And then this radio station thing took off. And people were listening to it. And you could see them listening to it, coming in from all over the world. You know, I had people from England and Germany and Switzerland and
wow.
Africa and China. And all these people listening to, and all the people in the U.S. And I do these live shows. It was just me trying to be funny and playing music. And
you're living the dream there. You're a Tom Petty fan. You have the Tom Petty sites going on. You're playing Gone Gator radio.
Right. I had all the avenues built to market the thing, and it was phenomenal. And then. Tony Demetriadis and John Scott, well, I guess it was John Scott who did it, but he flew me out to L.A., and I stayed at his house for a week, and we went to Guitar Center in, Sherman Oaks?
Yeah.
And went there, I said, we need this kind of soundboard. It needs a USB connection to the computer. We need this kind of microphone. We need this mic screen so we're not popping our P's. Yeah. I got all the equipment that we needed to do this. And we set up this little station in his garage in his house in Sherman Oaks. And we were doing live shows from there all of a sudden.
That's awesome.
So then John sets up a meeting with Tony Demetriadis at East End Management's office. And all of a sudden, I'm in fucking Tom Petty's manager's office playing a Tom Petty Martin guitar that was just released and talking about websites and streaming audio to Tony Demetriadis. And this guy listened to me like my shit didn't stink.
Wow.
And you talk about an overwhelming experience. I cannot tell you how much respect I have for Tony Demetriadis.
Damn.
That man.
And the feeling you had.
Not only did he do what he did for Tom Petty, he's Billy Idol's manager, and at the time he was also Lindsey Buckingham's manager.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And this guy's experience with the music industry, man, I wanted to work for him so fucking bad I could taste it. And it never quite happened, but damn, I worked at it. And he was an idol. I mean, after majoring in music business, this is the guy you wanted to know.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know, I mean, this was like, rock stars are great and all, but he's the guy who made the shit happen.
Exactly. He's the behind-the-scenes rock star right there.
Yeah. And, man, a tremendous guy. I got to see him in Atlanta in April for the last show. He was walking down the aisle, and I got to become pretty good friends with Mary Clouser, who's in the office. And I don't know if you know the song off Southern Accents, Mary's Got a Brand New Car.
Yeah, I think I've heard that, yeah.
That's about Mary at East End Management.
Oh, wow.
And so we became friends, and a couple of times I took trips out to L.A., and Mary would always meet me for lunch, and we're good friends. And, she's really helped me out through some. I mean, I've had some ups and downs in my life, and this past tour, money was a little tight, and I hated to ask, but I asked Mary, and she hooked me the hell up.
Oh, that's great, especially this year in hindsight.
Yeah. So Tony was walking to the soundboard, and I got to run down to the side from where I was sitting and say hi and shake his hand, and it was good to see him. I just can't imagine what those guys have been going through in the last week.
Oh, yeah.
I've emailed Mary. I haven't heard back. I'm almost afraid to call.
Sure.
I want to be respectful and not overstep any boundaries, but I know they're hurting, and if there's anything to do for them, I'd be right there in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah, and you definitely want to make sure they know that you didn't just love them when it was happening. You're still here.
Right. But having known them as I have, I know they've recorded everything they've ever recorded, even jokingly, and I know those things exist.
Wow.
And I do look forward to the possibility of lots of unreleased Tom Petty material coming out.
Oh yeah. Like I said, if it's even just a smidge of how Playback came out, this would be phenomenal.
But I know they've been working on, and to my knowledge, it's done, and will probably be the first release. But the unreleased cuts from Wildflowers.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I have a feeling that would probably be the first thing out.
Wasn't that supposed to be a double album at first?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Exactly. And that's why they did that and went back and, organized the tracks better, I guess.
Yeah. That was such a great album, too. And another rebirth of Tom Petty, just like Full Moon Fever was. Just because you have the melodies, you have Wildflowers, and then you have those rockers, Cabin Down Below, Honeybee, and you're just, one of my favorite things is when Dave Grohl sat in on the Saturday Night Live.
Saturday Night Live, yeah.
Yeah, and just they whipped out Honeybee. I mean, it's such a rocker.
On that tour, I went and saw them in Birmingham, Alabama, and the Foo Fighters opened for them.
Oh, wow.
And that was a great show.
Damn.
Yeah, that was just a great memory.
Yeah.
But they've got so much great material that has been unheard, and I hope they let that out to the fans. I have a feeling they will, because there's a very strong community now with, I don't know if you're part of it, but Tom Petty Nation is out there. And, it's basically a Facebook page, but, it's got a lot of members and it's a lot of Tom Petty fans, and that can't be a bad thing.
There was a show on VH1 called Classic Albums. Did you ever get a chance to see that one about Damn the Torpedoes? Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually got that DVD.
Yeah, me too. Me too, yeah.
Yeah, and it's got Ben Munn going through the individual tracks and stuff.
Yeah. That's like, I love when they go behind the scenes like that with anything I love, and that was just interesting.
Man, that's so cool.
We got a soundstage. I got soundstage when they were in Chicago. High Grass.
I've got friends who went to that show.
Really?
Yeah.
That's...
And just people I met through Gone Gator. I mean, I'm still in touch. I email a lot of people I've known since I first started Gone Gator, and the friends I've made around the country just by doing this. I mean, I've met some really cool people.
That's so great.
And it's just cool, man. Politics aside and everything, with what's going on in the world, we've all got music to keep us together.
Yeah.
And every song means something different to every person. And, when you find that thing that sings to your heart, and like Tom Petty did to mine and so many other people, it's amazing. What I appreciated most about Tom Petty is that he pretty much kept his politics to himself.
Yeah.
Maybe not totally silent, but he wasn't a Bono, and he wasn't a Springsteen, and he wasn't a Sting.
Yeah.
Where you just want to go, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Well, he came off as an every guy, you know, and just some guy with a guitar. And, you know, what I love about his music is in his just their library, you can handle every mood you're feeling, and he'll pick you up, stay down with you if that's where you need to be, and it's just great music. And
it was heartfelt, and man, the lyrics are just. I mean, his rhymes are just so right on. I mean, I don't know. I can't say enough about his songwriting. No. His lyrics always meant something. I mean, he wrote songs that, you know, weren't always typical, you know, like verse, chorus, chorus, you know. He could write a song that was all chorus, like Free Fallin'.
Right.
And, you know, he broke down the boundaries. You know, he tried, he redefined rock and roll.
Oh, I think so, too. His songs weren't redundant. They weren't just the cookie-cutter stuff, putting it out.
Right. I mean, I love the Rolling Stones. Don't get me wrong. Keith Richards is another idol of mine. But songwriting-wise, I don't know if they can hold a candle to what Tom Petty wrote.
No, I'd agree with that.
You know, I mean, sure, Satisfaction was great. I mean, the early 60s and the 70s stuff were great for the Stones. After that, not so much.
Exactly. Just kind of putting it out there every few years. Well, Sean, this has been a thrill, and I appreciate you so much taking the time to talk with me about Tom Petty and what you've been up to and what we finally meeting here over the internet here.
Yeah. Man, I can't wait to come out to L.A. and hang out with you, Jim.
Oh, for sure. So, again, thanks for calling in, Sean. I just had a blast talking with you, and we'll definitely do this again.
All right. Sounds good, man.
All right, buddy. Thanks, and have a great night.
All right, you too. Are we out?
Thanks for tuning in to this special presentation of the Roy and Jimmy Thing.